Good afternoon, on what is a really warm, bright, and sunny day. It is Tuesday, the 13th of August, and I'm in the reading up with a nice cup of tea. The box to continue unboxing. What I've got in here is Quests from the Infinite Staircase for Dungeons and Dragons. This is the last supplement to be published for Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition before the release of the Player's Handbook for what would be best described as Dungeons and Dragons 2024. Following September, and this presents a number of classic scenarios which have not seen print decades, but brought back for the then current edition of the world's most famous role-playing game as one last hurrah, one last look back at some of the classics from from Dungeons and Dragons history. Sorry, I'm thinking of something else. So, here we've got the credits, contents page. There's the difference between the two editions. And then we have Ascent to Adventure, gives you an overview of the different adventures and how to use them all together. Contains 6 classic D&D adventures updated for the current edition, and links them all with the Infinite Staircase. Of course, you could sort of tie that into Sigil and Planescape if you wanted to. So essentially, and there you actually have sort of modrons there, so it does tie in very neatly. So, and there are some of the doors you might find on the Infinite Staircase. Counters. And adventures you might have in and around the staircase itself. Before we start off with the adventures, and we start off with the Lost City, which is originally, I think, B4 for basic Dungeons and Dragons, published in the early 80s. I'm turning over a page. I'll just show you this. There's the introduction. You turn over the page. You have that. You have about the original edition. That's a great inclusion. It's acknowledging the past. And I actually do like that. One of the things that Wizards of the Coast has learned to do over the years is acknowledge its past. Because originally it didn't do so, and it was very annoying because there was a lot of content you couldn't get. Mind. Now, of course, the Lost City itself has been covered elsewhere by Goodman Games. There's a big original adventures reincarnated, which you can track down and is worth getting. So you have this adventure presented for the new edition. I mean, this is a little bit of sort of almost like a companion piece to Tales of the Yawning Portal. Going away. I'm very interested to see what else is in here. Here, essentially, you've got a Lost City in a buried ziggurat. Characters are essentially coming into this ziggurat. One dungeon. And right at the end, you've got a guide there to extend the adventure, how to carry it on. There's the expanding ziggurat for that, to support that. I think that's a nice addition. There's extra material in there as well. I think it's great. I think people give Wizards of the Coast a lot of stick, but sometimes when they do something like that, you've got to give them praise as well. Like, not everything that Wizards of the Coast does is bad. Then we move on to When a Star Falls, and that's another interesting inclusion. You see, essentially, in each case, you've got the background, how to tie it into the Infinite Staircase. because you can just take it away out of the Infinite Staircase is the framing device for this supplement, but all these scenarios can be pulled out of it. There we go. We have the original there. It's UK4. There we go. And the other thing is that many of the scenarios from the UK kind of get a bit ignored in the greater scheme of things from the output of TSR. Did about sort of like 10, 13 scenarios, something like that, beginning with U1 Sinister Secret Salt Marsh, which was incorporated and developed into the Ghost of Salt Marsh. I mean, that's the highest accolade to get a full campaign out of that material. But a lot of the other individual scenarios, the UK series, kind of get lost. Most people don't give them a lot of time. I think they're interesting. I think they have their own sensibility, which is generally slightly grimier and grittier. Because a lot of those of the UK scenarios are written, we are talking 83, 84, 5, and we are leading up to the period when the full-on grim and gritty British role-playing makes its debut in Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay. There is sort of like there's a distinct difference in how the UK scenarios feel compared to the American versions, and there's always kind of a gloss to the fantasy of the American versions. You know, we're basically Britain has a history, that the Americans don't, so we kind of have an instinctive feel for it, and we're kind of used to looking at it depicted on film as well. If you think about things like Jabberwocky or even Monty Python and the Holy Grail. So here we go. Let's continue on with the Falling Star. So it's interesting to see how a scenario like this is updated to the modern iteration. And again, similarly, Beyond the Crystal Cave, that's UK1. That's another similar scenario. And that's the other thing. This is a real acknowledgement of the efforts of the British authors and their contribution to Dungeons and Dragons, which, again, often gets overlooked. And these are treatments of these scenarios in some ways that you didn't think would ever get done. You thought they would remain in the archive and be forgotten. And then we've got something really special, which is I3 Pharaoh adapted to Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition. This is an absolute classic scenario. A combination of a bit of a wilderness trek, which is actually, if I recall, not very interesting in itself, but combined with a fantastic dungeon. The player characters have to work out how to get through a temple into a great pyramid and work their way up a trap-laden pyramid through a maze of mist and beyond. It's an incredibly difficult and challenging scenario. And it's fantastic to see this treatment, to see it updated. And now we actually got sort of like an encounter with a big bad at the end. You know, the Pharaoh himself wanting to escape death. And here we in full color we have a depiction of sort of like the final scene of the tomb of the Pharaoh Amun-Sa, and it literally floats above the pyramid unseen, or basically the player character somehow have to get across to it. It's just one of those huge challenging problems. Then we have yeah, S4, one of the classic scenarios in the special series, um, reprinted previously as S1 to 4 and before that, but this is the Lost Caverns of Tsojcanth. So essentially one of the special dungeons which published, but would be accompanied by a booklet of illustrations. Now I doubt that booklet is going to be accompanying these adventures. That's going to be disappointing. But again, it's fantastic to see it, given the modern treatment like this. And these also, the other thing to bear in mind is these are all things that Wizards of the Coast hasn't done. It hasn't presented short scenarios like this. The shortest scenario that arguably Wizards of the Coast has done is the Pandelver, Mines of Pandelver adventure from the starter set, and the subsequent starter set. None of them have been that nothing has been presented as short as that. You're talking big, thick campaign books. The next one is Expedition to Barrier Peaks. Again, that's S3. Again, another special one. Tales of the Yawning Portal might have had S2's White Plume Mountain. I can't recall. But this is what happens when fantasy meets science fiction, as written by Igari Gygax. There's reports of missing things strange going on in the mountains, and the player characters have to go and investigate. And this is a high-level adventure in which the player characters have to contend with advanced alien technology, such as that. And again, these adventures have been given the Dungeons and Dragons. Some of these have been given the Dungeons and Dragons 4 by Goodman Games, part of the original adventures reincarnated, and they're definitely worth tracking down if you can find them. They're big books, and they've got the original adventures versions of the adventures in them, as well as the updates. Now I'm hoping that there will be an image of a particular creature in here. Yes, there is. So I'm going to show you the map. Creature. Bunny on a stump. Which is not what it purports to be. And then we've got an intellect devourer. Got a section on magical items and technology. Creatures particular to Payne's scenarios in the book. Seas. That includes the fearsome Frogimoth. Which makes you just want to go, Frogimoth love daddy. The Frogimoth. So I'm basically my issue is I don't know that Expedition to Barrow Peaks and Caverns of Tsojcanth necessarily warranted reprinting, but glad they're in there. There are plenty of other adventures which would have been worthy of reprinting, perhaps. certainly would have liked to have seen um, uh, Oasis and Lost Him of White Martek or whatever it's called, I 4 and 5 reprinted, so you could do the complete Pharaoh trilogy. You've got the robots in here also from Barrier Peaks. I think that would have been great. I think that would have been great on a book on its own, actually. Um, but overall, this is an impressive um, collection. I'd like more of the UK scenarios published as well. That would have been even better. There are some really good ones in there as well. Just to include that British sensibility in Dungeons and Dragons, even in the modern iteration. That box at the end. And that then is Quest from the Infinite Staircase, a collection of classic Dungeons and Dragons scenarios updated for Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition. Perhaps one of my favourite books to date, along with Ghost of Saltmarsh and Delver. Anyway, hope you enjoyed unboxing in the Nook. If you did, then please do click on the like button down below. And if you've got any comments or feedback, I do appreciate you taking the time to post those. And lastly, if you want to be alerted to get more unboxings in the Nook, box containing the book or game, or in this case, the last supplement for Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition, which I will unbox and chat about to the best extent of my knowledge for roughly 10 minutes or so, all of course accompanied by a nice hot cup of tea. Then please do click on the subscribe button down below. Thanks again for watching another unboxing in the Nook. I will be back again soon with another one. Bye for now.